Don't quit. Strive hard and live the rest of your life as a champion. Many might have asked the question why some people succeed and why some fail. It is my belief the number one reason people win or lose is their level of determination. I have with me my very special guest. He is anchored in purpose. He is an ambassador for youths and teens. He is on one of the cheapest medications many can't get their hands on, and that is called determination. Greetings and blessings, and welcome to another episode of Shauna-Kay's Motivational Breeze. With me, Shauna-Kay Calder. You are tuned in for another powerful episode. I do this because you need it. We all need it. That good energy that will change our minds about our limitations. Some strong positive conversations that will shift our lens from lack to abundance. We all need this kind of cultural diversity if we ought to be happy. Today on Shauna-Kay's Motivational Breeze, we're talking about unlocking the power of determination. And my very special guest is no other than Mr. Joshua Quinn. I welcome you, Mr. Joshua Quinn, to Shauna-Kay's Motivational Breeze. It's a pleasure having you today.
Likewise. I've been waiting for it. Thank
Oh,
you so much for inviting me.
you're welcome. And I'm going to give you this opportunity to introduce yourself to my listeners.
Okay, my name is Joshua Quinn. I'm from the United States. I currently live in Dubai right now. I'm teaching a lot of subjects. I teach advanced psychology, sociology, world history, and geography. I'm also the CEO of Bars Institute. Should I talk about that now or should
Yes,
I
I want you
wait?
to go
Okay, so Bars Institute is the acronym of Brothers Against Racial Stereotypes. I started it in 2016. I guess we can talk more about that
ahead.
later, but it's an education intervention, youth empowerment, and exploratory learning for boys of color uh, throughout the world. Now, it was just in the United States, but now I have the opportunity to finally be international. And I guess the approach is kind of what we're talking about right now, determination in terms of uh, this movement being a revolution, you know, something that people don't ask for, but it's necessary,
Yes,
or something that we've been asking for that we know that we're never going to get if we keep asking somebody else. So we do it ourselves. You have to be determined to have this.
I
If
do.
nobody's going to do it, then why not me?
Yes, and you have taken that initiative to go ahead and do this, and you're doing a wonderful job. And we'll learn more about his initiative later on. Now, Mr. Josh,
Thank you so much.
we all know the definition of determination, what the dictionary have it to be. But if you could redefine the word determination, what would that be?
Okay, my definition would be something that you, a purpose that you want to fulfill so bad that you're willing to die for.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
And this cultivated definition of determination that you just gave us, would you then say that you were born determined or you acquired determination?
I think it has something to do with both nature and nurture. Of course, I teach psychology, so I'm going to look at everything
Mhm.
from a psychological lens. You have people that are born with it. Maybe sometimes it's genetics. If there's something in you that stems from your parents, that's nature.
Yes.
However, you have some parents that also get comfortable, after they give birth to somebody else, they fail to instill those type of things in there. It's unlocked, you know. And of course, if you don't nurture it, then it just sits there dormant. So maybe your environment
Yes.
empowers you to be determined,
Mhm.
or something that happens significantly in your life that causes you to uh, unlock that hidden monster. As I suppose, I don't like to use the term monster as that sleeping giant,
Yes.
as we call it. So yeah, I look at it that way. It's nature versus nurture.
Okay, wonderful. And can you share with us one of the many times when you really, really had to be determined? How was that experience?
Well, I think the Creating Bars Institute, you know, because I started off, um well, I kind of used to be a hothead actually.
Okay.
So, yeah, hothead meaning not, just I prefer the Malcolm X approach as
Okay.
opposed to Martin Luther King,
Mm,
and I did that because, um, it's ingrained, especially in America, it's ingrained in us to think like Dr. King, to,
mm-hmm.
because it's in our education,
Yes.
which I appreciate that philosophical side of Dr. King. That's necessary.
Yes.
But you have to ask yourself, why is this the only way?
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you talk about oppression and determination and things like that, especially being, African of African descent,
Yes.
all we know is struggle and
Mm-hmm.
survival. But do we know thriving? Do we have what it takes to actually thrive? So I started when I got into undergraduate school and graduate school, actually. So I started to realize that even just looking at the theories and the people that created the philosophy that is psychology,
Yes.
I wasn't there. I
Mm.
was not there in theory, in practice, in anything.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, so how is this going to be applied in my community? Because there is no one size fits all in terms of therapy and things like that. So it became it became an act of rebellion, actually,
Mm.
to force to put myself in these theories, to force to put my people in these methodologies
Yes.
and research and things like that, because we weren't there. I didn't ask for it.
Mm-hmm. Was given to you.
It was given to me. So at that moment, education actually became important
Mm-hmm.
because I had something to fight for.
Yes.
And so I was spending more time in the library doing that research as opposed to the research they were giving me.
It's good. It arose
And
you
so my
personally.
right, so and it became, actually, and I'm also a pastor's son, so using that element, it became a ministry,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So yeah, I would spend more time in the library just researching. I was hungry for it. It was rebellion. And cut to later on, I noticed that we're still asking people to educate us. We're still asking for better schools. We're still asking for, resources and things like that. And we've spent all these years, our ancestors have fought for us to go to these good schools and things like that. But what are we doing with it? Why are we still asking, educate me, when we have all the necessary tools within our community in itself? Think of all the things that we've created out of our struggle, whether it's reggae, salsa, gospel music, hip hop, jazz, all this other, all these other elements that are globally a global phenomenon, that actually people that look like us, they move the global culture.
Yes.
As P Diddy said, we say what's hot. We say what's not. We say what's cool. We say what's trendy. We say we control how people dance. We control how people talk. Right. So, of course, I was in a clinical setting first, mental health, and after a while, I just kept seeing like some of these remedies or therapies are not working for children, boys, specifically black and brown boys that
And
have mental
and what,
disorders.
if I may ask, what kind of therapy were they given?
So, well, I started in cognitive behavior therapy and ABA therapy. So, ABA therapy is usually for kids that have autism
Yeah, special needs, special
and
education.
Asperger's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I'm having these thoughts and rebellious desires at the same time. I'm visually seeing black men on TV lying on the ground dead because of police brutality. So seeing it, it's still traumatizing. At the same time,
Mm-hmm.
it's building that fire and determination up inside me. I can't go around and and attacking people and stuff like that, but I can use this.
Yes.
I can use my mind.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that you said I couldn't do. You told me I was dumb because I'm black and all this other just
Mm-hmm.
crazy stuff that we've been hearing for generations. But now becomes an act of rebellion. And so one day I just got fed up with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started, after, and I was actually developing this while I was in graduate school. And one day I just started like, let me pull this out of my box, and I just started writing, just writing, and I was like, wow. And I remember going to, I think we were at like a state capitol meeting or something like that, and people were just, I understand protest, I get it. But that day I realized, okay, this is not my thing. I am not going to sit out here and beg people to educate my children when I know. And when you do ABA therapy, you look at behavioral history,
Mm-hmm.
meaning, as people say nowadays, receipts.
Yes.
So if I know you have a history of not wanting to educate me because of XYZ,
Mm-hmm.
why am I out here protesting when I know you, I know your spirit, I know your soul.
Mm-hmm.
So now I need to do it for myself. So one day I was just fed up and I quit my job, and it was February of 2016. Never gonna forget it. Never gonna forget it.
Job.
And I was scared. I was nervous, but
Mm.
I was determined. I was determined. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Sorry for being long-winded.
Fine. That's a wonderful place to reach in life when you trust in the impossible, because you
Hmm.
knew what you wanted, and you knew that you are the only one who could bring that change in your life. And
Hmm.
you said you expressed that you were rebellious, and rebellious in a good way, like you were thirsty
Hmm.
for greatness, for what you want, and you never
Hmm.
stopped. And look at you now. But what I want to ask you, how does your close friends and family affected your level of determination to get to this path that you're on?
Okay. Simply put, some of them had to go. Some of them are still around. So, and if you come to know me, I'm kind of like cut and dry. There's no dancing around it. But it took me a while to realize that actually you have to cut some people off.
Mhm. So you were
You
the
can
one
look.
who disconnected the friendship, or they left? Were you the one to disconnect the friendship?
Well, I do blame myself. I do. I don't blame them. If if they are so afraid of my purpose,
Hmm.
then I don't need them around me.
I agree with you.
If I know that in my heart and in my soul is
Hmm.
what I'm doing is not just for me, and it's empowering other people, especially young people, the next generation, and you're afraid of it, that has nothing to do with me.
Hmm. For
That's something you have to do. Follow your own path with that. We can be cordial, we can be friends, and I'll try to at least help you understand where I'm coming from. I'm never just like, don't talk to me.
hmm
But if that person chooses to distance itself, I'm okay with it. I'm not that type of person, oh, you aren't woke, blah, blah. That's just not me. Everybody has their own path. So,
back to the point when you quit your job, because there are many of us, there are many young people who are they're filled with purpose. Purpose is within them, but because they are limited to whatever is around them that is hindering their purpose from coming forth, many of us are not bold and courageous enough to take that step forward to quit their jobs. Because some of us,
mhm.
if we would only take that leap of faith and make that step, we would see great things happen in our lives. So for someone who will be listening to us and hearing you say that you quit your job, I'm sure it wasn't easy as one, two, three. Did you have second thoughts after you quit your job?
No,
No second thoughts.
no.
Wow. So your level of determination.
Initially, everybody is nervous, of course,
Yes.
but it was just that thing. My soul said it was time.
Hmm.
And I had been preparing for it. I just didn't know it was going to come that soon.
Wow.
I knew eventually that I wanted to leave and do my own thing. I was giving myself 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
not a year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so of course, and it's the other side of it is having that support system that understands your determination. They may not understand your methods of how you doing it, but they see that you want it so bad,
Yes.
and especially if you're in a situation where there's a job or a relationship and things like that. When people see that you aren't good, you're not happy, you're sad, you're depressed, I wanted to, I was determined to live, so
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't let that job and that situation kill me or kill my spirit. So it was either me or that job, and I chose me.
And I'm sure before you took that
you're,
step,
you're lagging a little bit.
before you took that step to quit your job, I'm sure you must have made goals. How important would you say setting goals is important towards someone being determined to accomplish their goals?
Okay, goals are probably the most important element of your life when we're talking about purpose and determination.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important thing is there is no A or B. There's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You
Unlimited.
always have to have, yeah, you have to have a game plan. And some people don't understand that there is no A and straight to B. There's A all over the place.
It's
And you
scattered.
eventually get to B. So
Yeah.
you always have to, and some, right, right. And sometimes you're gonna lose sleep. Sometimes you're gonna be over analytical. And like I try to tell people, the journey is rough, but it's necessary.
Yes.
You know. So I always tell them, always figure out all the ins and outs. Look at your opposition. Look at the people that have tried before you. Look at the people that have attacked the people that have come before you. I
Mm-hmm.
always tell people, it's not about just looking at the people from which shoulders you stand on. Look at the people that have tried to knock them down.
Yes.
So you need to understand your opponent, and that's why I tell my boys who are athletes and don't like education, you have to apply all this stuff to your everyday life. So yeah, goals are definitely important, and I always encourage people to actually write down their goals and meditate. Prepare yourself for it. What I do is I actually sometimes when I'm setting goals, I
Mm-hmm.
start doing cleansing. Ridding myself of toxins in my body, exercising more, just preparing myself for what's coming ahead. Whatever it is, it might not be what I want, but like I said, there's a method to the madness. The closer I can get to it, that's still a goal that's about to be achieved. And
Wow.
it may take a year, it may take 5 months, it may take 10 years. But as long as you have that drive and determination, as I always tell people, you got to see it before you see it, or you
Mm-hmm.
never will see it.
Can
So
you
if
repeat it
it's in
again?
your mind right now, if that thing keeps you, okay, you got to see it
Mm-hmm.
before you see it, or you never will see it.
Mm-hmm.
I sound like my father right now. I'm preaching. That's so crazy. Uh, so yeah, it's like that you have that thing, and it's so deeply ingrained in your mind that sometimes it wakes you up at night. You lose sleep over it. You can't focus on it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's that thing that you saw when you were a kid, but you didn't know what it was.
Yes.
Like it took me a year after I started Bars Institute to understand that I had this crazy I used to love X-Men, and my favorite character was Professor Charles Xavier. The mind reader can
Mm-hmm.
control things with his mind. And as I grew up, I realized, I can't do that. That's not real.
No.
But I can major in psychology. I can do clinical psychology, and I want to start my own center for gifted, school for gifted students.
Yes.
So in a sense, I was doing it. I'm looking at this stuff as a kid, and I was like, wow, that purpose was already there. I just needed to cultivate it, to be determined to see it through.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I realize you just said gifted and talented, and I just could not keep quiet because that's my field. Wow. Awesome.
Oh, really? Okay.
I just could not keep
Okay.
quiet. Awesome. Now, while you were setting your goals, have you missed any of them and why? Because there are many people, especially now since this COVID-19, they have set several goals and they were very near to accomplishing those goals. But then we have a pandemic, a crisis came and prevented many of us from actually going the path which we had intended to. What would you say? What encouragement can you give to people of such?
Change your thinking. Just because something bad happens that alters your life doesn't mean it's bad. It's giving you a chance, as my father would say, the Bible says,
Mhm.
going back to the drawing board.
Yes.
You may have been getting closer to it, but there's something we've all missed. I mean, we're only human.
Hmm.
There's this is the opportunity. This is the perfect opportunity to go back to that drawing board and not only just rediscover your art, your craft, or whatever it is you're trying to build, but rediscovering yourself. Asking yourself, okay, what do I need to do to prepare for this blessing? What do I need to do to prepare for this degree? What do I need to do to prepare for graduation? What do I need to do to prepare for this marriage or anything in like any type of goal that you have moving forward? How do I need to center myself in order to prepare myself for when we, as we've been saying, when we get to go back outside?
Yes.
you know, because this is the time where we're in this cocoon of a life. And of course, while we're in the cocoon, before we become butterfly, we're morphing, we're transforming, we're figuring ourselves out. And once you prepare for that, you're ready to fly. Remember, I said a lot of what we do as people of color, especially black people, um, it's out of struggle.
Yes, it is.
And a lot of the things that we create, it's beautiful, and
Mhm.
it becomes a global phenomenon, and we don't really realize that until we don't control it anymore.
Yes. Mhm.
So not only that, but understanding the power of talking about gift and talented, understanding the power of controlling intellectual property,
Mhm.
the things you create. Yes, you can give it to the world, you can inspire people, but do you essentially own and control it?
Mhm.
Don't let anybody abuse the things that you create. Because if you doing the hard work, if you have prayed on it, you have meditated on it, you have lost sleep on it, you have lost family, you have lost friends, you have sacrificed so much for this thing that you call your purpose in life. Why would you let somebody take that from you?
Oh,
Like I said, this has to be something that you're willing to die for.
yes.
And it's something that you can leave behind for your family, whether it doesn't even have to be financial. As long as you can keep an idea outlasting you, to me, from a spiritual standpoint, that's eternal life. We still remember Malcolm X. We still remember Charlemagne or the Queen of Sheba, or all of these people. Their messages and ideas have outlived their actual physical lives. So, like I said, you got to be willing to die for it, but
Mhm.
you're reborn through your ideas. You're reborn out of that cocoon or that pandemic that we're in right now. This is the time to develop yourself and find out, hey, who am I and what do I have to offer?
I agree with you 100%. I do believe that society have placed age on what our accomplishments should be and at what age we should accomplish those. Now, for people who are thinking like they have reached a certain age and they might think, okay, when I society states at the age of 25, I should have accomplished this, but now I'm 30 and I'm not seeing this. Is there an age to set goal, or can anyone set goals at any time?
As long as you're living, there's a chance to set a goal. Every day is a goal. If you feel like you have lost something, your birth is a win. It took something for you entering that sperm, being the first to enter that sperm, and you being born. You won a race already.
Yes.
So therefore, you're just a winner by birth. You know, the creator chose you out of all those little tiny worms, you know, to give birth, or to provide purpose and inspire, or give something back to the world,
Yes.
you know. So I feel like a lot of people pay attention so much to what other people are doing,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Losing.
don't understand that they have their own actual journey. So you're losing focus. And I admit I have done it. You know, I think about, okay, how does somebody get $1 million for this school, and this person doesn't even have any education experience or mental health experience, or probably don't even like kids. But it still happens. But I have to realize that I appreciate, whether it's slow pace or fast pace. I appreciate it. You know, just this week, a woman that was 70, I want to say she was 73 or 76 years old, she finally got her
This
PhD,
saw that.
you know, from Howard University. That's amazing.
Yeah,
You
that.
know, it's some people that just sitting on their ideas, just sitting on their blessings. Like I always tell my students, you have a gold mine right here.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to have the willpower and determination to tap into that. You know, you have so many kids that are 13, 14, 15 right now, creating their own ideas,
Yes.
making millions of dollars, and
Invention.
but still have to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning to go to school and things like that. But they make more money than I do.
That's
But
true.
it's all about your nature versus nurture. If you're born with it, or is somebody are you being nurtured in it?
No.
You
And
understand? Like, for example, if you were born not having enough money to get your hair done, but you knew how to braid,
mm-hmm.
you use YouTube to look at designs and things like that, and you come from a poor community where a lot of people can't afford to go get the hair and all that stuff like that. So you braid people's hair in the neighborhood, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it just things like that. Using your community, using your resources and things to be creative, to build yourself up, and pairing yourself with people that inspire you. Somebody, let's say I didn't come from a wealthy family, but I know somebody that is wealthy and understands wealth management. Because
Yes.
I don't want to be just rich. I want to make sure I keep the money
Mm-hmm.
and build on it,
Yes.
and leave some for my family and generations to come. But people don't see it that way. They see what they see on TV. They see the it factor, but they don't see what people have done to get to that. You understand?
Yes. That's true.
So yeah.
That is true. You spoke about determination being learned and determination being nurtured. Can you expound
Mhm.
on that some more for us?
Okay. So it goes back to education. Like I tell my students, formal education is not true education. Yes, I'm a teacher, but I'm a realist as well. So anything in life can be learned, whether it's outside of the school, whether it's through your parents, whether it's through TV, whether it's through something that happens in your life.
Mm-hmm.
For example, my father passed away when I was in undergraduate school, and
Yes.
for most of my life, of course, being an evangelist kid, you learn that you'll see him again in heaven.
Yes.
And of course, in a lot of religious families, seeking mental health services is kind of taboo.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to sit there with being upset with God, like, why did you take my father away? I'm just getting in college. I'm just becoming a man. So there's that doubt, that fear, that anger, all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But all I knew was I've been turned to just lean on God and don't question God.
Yes. Very important.
But my education is telling me critical thinking, question ideas, question philosophy. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. So now we're talking about cognitive dissonance. And I teach this to my kids all the time. When you have two opposing views and your one mind is trying to figure out, which way do I go? Which
Mm-hmm.
way do I go? So it actually took me leaving my church denomination, leaving my state in the South, and actually leaving the country. I just on a whim in graduate school, I got a chance to go to Nepal.
Wow.
Yeah, I got a chance to go to Nepal, and I knew that it was going to be a spiritual journey. I just didn't know how much of an impact it would be.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned about Hinduism and Buddhism and sustainable living and using the earth, how earth is life, and you are what you eat and health and things like that. It was just like my first time actually experiencing God as I understand it, or
Mm-hmm.
the Creator as I understand it. And I was at a what do you call it? A crematory. So you actually see people being, cremated, and they go into the Bagmati River, which is a holy river, and all that. And um, we talked about eternal life. So like my father gave birth. My father and mother came together and gave birth to me,
Mm-hmm.
and so on. And there's a long legacy from that. And if someone takes my blood, they know my ancestors.
Yes.
It's still here.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to like, oh, so essentially my father's not dead. And if I keep reproducing or maintaining his ideas, what he taught me and things like that, and instill that in people or even my own children, that's eternal life. He's still here. His genetically, he's literally, and I look exactly like my father. So, essentially, he's still here. So that reshaped what I had learned for 26 years. And actually, I had my 26th birthday in Nepal, and they gave me like this party, and it was just like this whole rebirth of like, wow, all of these new ideas and new concepts and new theories, and not only just shaped my spirit, but it just redid something to my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of that stress and anxiety and depression, because of religious fear, parent pressure, all this other stuff. It was just like
Wow.
going away, and it changed. Like I said, and during that time, I was still creating Bars Institute. I was still creating Bars Institute, and
Wow.
this was in 2011,
Wow.
2012. Yeah, and that just and also, like I said, that became a part of my therapy, traveling, understanding different cultures, understanding how they view certain perspectives in terms of life or marriage or education or philosophy or politics, because I didn't want to be that American that's afraid of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Muslims over here,
Yeah.
they're this, they're that.
Mm-hmm.
When I have to look around and in my environment and say, okay, this is how I can educate and empower myself. This right here is God, because I'm getting this knowledge and I'm getting this wisdom, and I'm feeling amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a downside to that. So, like for example, I come from the South. That's a whole nother culture of the United States. That's a whole another culture. But they say, "Oh, go get your education. Go do this. We're proud of you."
Mm-hmm.
Now I got this education. Now I've seen the world. Now I've done all this stuff that you told me to do,
Mm-hmm.
and now I want to come back and fix my community. Oh, wait, that's too much education. Wait, those ideas are outlandish. All this other stuff. Wait, you told me to go get the education.
Yes.
And I'm one of the ones that came back.
Mm-hmm.
When most of the people, once they get their education and their
They leave.
jobs and their fancy, all this other stuff, they're not coming back to Mississippi or Louisiana.
Wow. So
you know?
we have to be very careful then of the people we have around us, because these are, those who are closest to us.
Absolutely.
Their voices are the strongest. And like you just said, they have
Uh-huh.
told you to go out and get the education, and you went and you acquired the education, and now you want to return to do good things, and no one want to welcome or even appreciate the fact that you want to bring transformation. but yet still you're determined that you're gonna
Mhm.
continue and nothing is gonna deter you. That's passion.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Mhm.
And how did you get to Dubai? From Nepal now to Dubai. You have been determined. Your journey has been seasoned with determination.
Yeah. You know what? I do miss cultivating something, from where I come from with students and children like that. But I also I worked so hard to give so much to other people that I
Mhm.
actually needed something for me. And that's the other side of determination. When you're so focused on that goal to
Mhm.
where you forget about yourself,
Yes.
what you want to do, especially if you're in our profession, you're always giving, giving, giving,
Yeah.
giving. And at the end of the day, all you want to do is sleep, if you can do that.
If you
You
can.
know,
Fully correct.
so I always and it goes back into that purpose that comes from childhood. I remember Granny when I was little. She was like the lioness of my life, my protector.
Mm.
When I was a kid, she would always go on these church trips. They would go to Greece and Egypt and things like that. Now, Granny didn't have no education. Granny barely finished high school. She wasn't no articulate professor like most of the people were in our church. But she fed the entire church. Matter of fact, she fed state congregations and the president, the actual, like Bill Clinton, the president. you know, so this lady had that type of power.
Mhm.
And she would go on these trips and she would tell me about Greece and Egypt and Italy, and I said, Granny, I'm gonna do that too. When I get big, and I even told my mama this, I'm gonna move overseas. And
Mhm.
I always remember just like even in class, like I told you, I was rebellious, smart, but rebellious. If
Mhm.
something's not interesting me, I'm looking out of the window, thinking about some island, some something other than, because this is not important. I don't care about this. Like I don't care about this. So I started traveling, and it just did something to my spirit because I wanted to educate myself. Whatever I get from my experience traveling and research and things like that, I give it out to the community, right? Sankofa, right? Reaching back, you
Reaching back.
know.
Mhm.
So, and I remember one of the things I always tell my students is, well, if we have time. Uh, so the first thing is I went to Haiti to visit my family, and um, there was this kid. He was doing his math homework, and he was crying. Now it's getting me choked up every time. Get me choked up every time. And uh, we were asking him why was he crying. He said he ran out of paper,
Mhm.
and he had the composition books that cost like 10 cents.
Mhm.
From In America and things like that are cheap because of the embargo placed in Haiti. That stuff costs a lot of money, and some
Yeah.
people don't have a lot of money just for composition books. So just like I don't know, just my spirit was just like, wow,
Yeah. Mhm.
something we take for granted. And he was every day I see him, he was just studying his butt off, studying his butt off. So and of course I'm a writer as well, because of course, like I said,
Yeah.
research writer as well. So I ran into my room and I just started ripping out all the paper that I've written on,
Mhm. And give it
and
to.
I just gave it to him, and we hugged or whatever, and I was just like,
Mm.
it's developing in my spirit, and of course, I started Bars Institute. I was traveling during that time and things like that. I took my students, we went on civil rights tours with the sister organization of ours. We went through Memphis, Tennessee, Louisiana, Alabama, places where all the civil
Yeah.
rights
Civil rights
things
space.
happen. And a lot of my students have never been outside of their city before. So like
Mm.
I'm trying to empower them to see
Yes.
beyond their neighborhood, see beyond their city, see beyond their state, see beyond their region, and all this stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm enjoying traveling, but I'm doing this for them,
Wow. That's
you
one.
know. And yeah, and so uh, And the funny thing is, one of my friends, he's my high school, one of my high school buddies I went to school with. He lived out here, and he
Okay.
would always say, "Josh, you need to come out here, man." And I was like, "Man, I don't want to go to Dubai with all these bougie folks. Like, I don't have time for that. I'd rather be in Haiti or Cuba where like it's normal, you can
Normal life.
chill."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm that dude. So never wanted to go there. And I went to Cuba trying to do roots and all that stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat with this priestess, Santeria priestess, and she read my life, man. Like, I was like, lady, really? And she was like, "You've been holding on this for so long." She said, "You are going to go across the water."
Wow.
And
Your wings.
as I,
Mm.
yeah, and I had already been, talking about it. I always wanted to do it, but I didn't want to leave my bar students,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just that I don't like that abandonment thing, especially when a lot of your boys come from single parent households.
Yes.
So there's that,
You have a
you know.
responsibility. Mm-hmm.
So, and just that experience in Cuba empowered me. I knew it was coming. I just didn't know when.
And here it is.
And yeah, and I started. And the funny thing is, I applied for a job in China. Let me
Mm.
see how funny this stuff works. How funny this stuff works. And my friend at the time, uh, he was like, "You should consider Dubai." And
Mm.
I was like, "Nah, man, that's just
Not
not
here.
a place for me. It's just not my thing." But I had some fraternity brothers here and some real friends here, so I just went ahead and I called the same company that I applied for in China.
Mm-hmm.
I called them. They weren't giving me what I want, so she was like, "Well, just apply for it." When I called her, this has been it was like another year or
Okay.
so, and she was like, "We've been waiting on you to call." She was like, Are you? It sounds like you finally ready right now." Because the first time when we were talking about China, I wasn't quite sure because
Yes.
I was too scared to leave,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess she just heard the power in my voice. Oh, let me go back. Before this happens, my worst fear happened.
Mm.
This was that catapult the determination. One of my students was shot while riding his bike. One of my bars boys. And when I tell you that, oh man, that was one of my worst fears because I know, like I said, I'm not like most educators. I can be a bit militant sometimes,
Yeah.
and I'm very overprotective of my boys.
Mm-hmm.
And they understand the police brutality and violence in communities and things like that. But he was only 14, riding his bike in his neighborhood. He was shot in the back,
Wow.
and I I could handle it, but my gut was just like, okay, you have got to get out of here.
Mm.
Because it wasn't just about my students anymore. It was about me and my mental health. And I had already been talking about I want to expand bars. I want to do this. I want to do that. I feel like people need to see education from another perspective.
They do.
You
Mm-hmm.
know. And I called the lady. She was like, "It sounds like you're sure in your voice." And so, she connected me to certain schools, and I told them what I wanted, and I had that job within a week and a half.
Wow.
And it was just like, wow. And after I started researching, the opportunities that is here, the communities that are here, a lot of people that have started business here, especially the mindset of the community here. Most of us are educated, so
Mm-hmm.
it's a different pool of people. Most people have bachelors, masters, and all this stuff like that. So there's another element, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
unit here, actual unity. It's a lot of us, but it's not enough to start a nation, but it's enough to practice group economics, share ideas, work with each other in terms of business and things like that. and also just how the mindset of African American males. I didn't meet not one African American male that lived in the body that said they have any interest of coming back home.
Wow.
So I was like, well, maybe this is it. And till this day, my friend said, it was my idea.
But
So,
it was his idea. It was your determination.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll let them have it, but that goes to show your support system.
Hmm.
Even when you don't fully see it, somebody may see that little corner,
And
that dark
here.
area in the corner that you don't see. So I do appreciate it for that. I'm never gonna tell him that, but So yeah, I moved here and I told him from the beginning I'm a different type of teacher,
Wow.
and
That's
I feel like I've been successful because not only am I relatable, but just me being something different from what they're used to in terms of color, in terms of nationality and things like that, or my no nonsense attitude. Because sometimes kids can be
Mhm.
a little coddled here, and they just know Mr. Joshua is not about their life. Try
Mm.
me if you want to. You know, you
Disciplinarian.
know, right? But I also care. I like I told my kids back home and even here. If you ride for me, I'll ride for you. My standards are always going to be high. You fall below those standards, there are consequences. If there's something that I'm failing to teach you, I will take the consequences for it. If I see something in you that you don't see in yourself, we're gonna have to figure something out. And
Mm.
I'm gonna be in your face every day.
That
I
support.
will come to your house. I told one of my students today he was moving. He's in a staying in a hotel right now because he's moving, and he was like, "Mister, I can't do this. I can't do that. Blah
Mhm.
blah blah. My internet's off." I said, "Son, don't make me come to that hotel because you know I will."
Mm.
And especially if I have, I keep a strong connection with my parents. My parents know Mr. Joshua is another type of fool. so,
That's important.
so they're like, whatever Mr. Joshua says, because they see like I'm ride or die for your kid.
Wow.
If you don't see it, I see it, and if I see it, I think I'm right. I know I'm right. So
I,
you're
I,
gonna work.
I believe based on what you have shared from your journey, I do believe that your experiences have shaped your level of determination. And I can now see you how you are actually allowing the same experiences for your students. You're pushing them, you're being that support system because at times we all need someone to say, wake up, it's time. It's time to go. And
Hmm.
it's very, very good that you are doing this for your students, pushing them
Hmm.
despite the
Okay.
many things that are happening, the many challenges, you're still telling them
Hmm.
you can get this. There are no excuses.
Right.
They will
And I
take.
always tell them, you can either make it your crutch or you can make it your footstool.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's died, or if you're facing depression and things like that, yeah, I understand it. I deal with it myself, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But you got to be determined whether you're gonna live or die,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I always tell them, there's money to be made even in your misery. you
That,
know,
that's true.
as people say, turn your misery into your ministry,
History. Yeah, I saw that on your
right?
picture. Yes.
So there's, yes, you can be sad, yes, you can have that moment of depression. I always teach it the way I've learned it, using Yoruba, uh I'm not gonna call it without the Yoruba spirituality. So you go into that deepest, darkest part of the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
where Alokum, as the god or goddess is called, and that is where like it's there's pressure down there. Of course, we all been underwater when that air pressure is so tight, your chest, your ears start to pop and things like that. Yeah, it's scary being in that lowest point, but it's so necessary. It's so necessary. It shows you how powerful you are. You have to decide whether you're gonna stay down there and let this soak you down and kill you, or is this energy that you're feeling at the bottom of this depression and all this stuff, is that enough energy to catapult yourself up to the surface of the water and get back to the sun, get back to your business, start paddling, start swimming again,
Wow.
right?
And for,
So go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
So like that's how I look at it a lot, and just I grew up Christian, and a lot of the spiritual teaching outside of my other culture like Haiti, Cuba, things like that. I was like, wow, that I can connect more with that. That makes more sense to me. Not knocking for I learned a lot from Christianity as well, but that indoctrination also had its downside.
Hmm.
So it was harming me more than it was healing me. So I had to kidnap God, and we went on a little journey, you know, together. So the spiritual relationship became more important than the religion itself.
Hmm.
So like I said, I had to learn that it had to be a spiritual journey. My purpose also had to be a spiritual journey. What can you connect with? Who or what you can connect with? What is nurturing to the soul? What is going to keep you determined to keep going? What is it going to say about you in that little dash on your grave site when it has your birth date and your death date? What are people going to say about you in between that dash?
Mm.
So yeah, that's just how I see things. And like I said, I'm not afraid of death because I know what I'm willing to die for. Now, before the time when my father died, how I had learned death, I probably wouldn't be alive right now. I probably would have committed suicide, just being real, you know. But I was determined to see this through, not be afraid of death.
Hmm.
So much that I need to find something that I was willing to die for.
Wow. Wow. That's wonderful. And if you can share with my listeners 5 ways in which they can unlock determination, their power of determination. How can you unlock your determination in closing?
Okay. Okay. In closing, number one, um, don't be afraid to actually deal with yourself. Some people, excuse me, some people like, to do everything possible to avoid actually having to sit there and really deal with what's going on with you inside. That is probably the most scariest thing for people in terms of psychological sense. Don't be afraid to deal with yourself because self healing is really, really important, which goes to my second topic,
Mm-hmm.
finding finding out your divine element. Erica Badu said, "If we were made in His image, then call us by our name." Like that's music, but that's what? Come on, man. If you are created in God's image, then therefore you have elements of a God. Doesn't the Bible say life and death lies in the power of the tongue?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
So if you're speaking ill on somebody, you putting that in the atmosphere. If you're speaking grace and prosperity and all this stuff in your life and other people, that's power. That's the divine power
Mm-hmm.
that you have. So figuring out that you are divine, that you are connected to everything in this world, right? And you have the power to shape it. Even when you die, your energy is still there. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. That's science, right?
It is.
Number three, number three, set up your squad. Have a support system. That's so important. And another element to that, realize that the people that are with you now won't be with you at the end of your journey.
Mm.
Because the people that you'll find out that the people that oftentimes are closest to you, oftentimes not your biggest supporters.
Mm.
So developing your support system, knowing having that what do you call it, intuition of who or what is good for your spirit and not. And also, what number am I on?
Number 5.
Number 5? That is number 5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, number 5. And I just lost my train of thought just that fast. Number 5. The Bible says, study to show thyself to prove my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. That is what is killing the society today.
Knowledge.
Lack of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
For example, relationships. If someone tells you what color purple saying, you're poor, you're black, you're ugly, if people are telling you this all over time, you start to internalize that.
Mm-hmm.
When you know you're smart.
Exactly.
But it's because that other power that says that somebody or they decided that they're going to have the power over you. You got to eventually be the one to have that mitigated gall to be determined to get yourself out of that situation. Forgiveness is important. I always, I fight with this forgiveness thing. I'm still working on it, but there is power in forgiveness. However, from my perspective, there is power in understanding how do you protect that forgiveness. Take a perfect example. Every time, usually when an African American male or a female is shot, the family say, "I forgive you."
Mm-hmm.
Without even having to grieve, without even having to process information, because our religion tells us to forgive, not be nonviolent, all this other stuff. We don't, that's another reason why our community, whether we're from Jamaica or whatever, we don't process our feelings and stuff, well enough. Because we've been taught we're strong, or boys don't cry, or girls should be this, all this other stuff. You have to, if you're going to forgive somebody, how are you going to protect that? How are you going to make sure that you're not being abused again? That's power in that.
There is.
Like I said, people always say there's a power in the yes. There's a hell of a lot of power in no too.
There is. There is.
So yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Well, you heard it from him, the man with a mission, the man with a purpose, the CEO of Bars Institute. You never spoke to us about your Scream initiative, even though we're out of time. Where can we find you? Where can we find you for those who want to follow you and learn more about your initiative? How can you be found?
Okay, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. Just type in Bars, BARS Institute, INC, Bars Institute Inc., and you'll see pictures, our initiatives. Matter of fact, today we have a global conversation about how people in the Arab world see African Americans and vice versa. So that's what we're doing today.
On what platform will you have?
We're doing the which platform? Is it the Google Meet platform? I can send you the information if you would like.
Wonderful.
Yeah, but it's 9:00 our time and 12 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Okay, wonderful. Here you heard it from Mr. Joshua Quinn. It's a pleasure having you. The second male with a purpose, global thinker, anchored in purpose. The second male on Shauna-Kay's Motivational Breeze. I want to thank you for this opportunity to share with us your passion and your pursuit towards greatness and how you too have unlocked the power of determination. And I'm sure that many of you who are listening, many of you who are watching or who will be watching, you too have learned how to unlock the purpose that you have and to unlock the determination that is locked up inside of you. Remember, allow nothing to limit your capacity. Remove everything that limits your capacity. You can rise to the occasion and be great. You can be great in anything that you put your mind to. If you want it, you have to believe it in order to achieve it. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Shauna-Kay's Motivational Breeze. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. God bless you.